It's kind of cold in here. Can we get something going in the fireplace? Nice. Hello, my name is Blaze Morris. Today, we'll be talking about firewalls. Firewalls are a type of network device that control the flow of incoming and outgoing network traffic based on security rules. It is used as a barrier between the internal network and external networks, a wall between the devices you trust and the ones you don't know, designed to prevent unauthorized access. They work by filtering data packets, inspecting them to see if they meet a set of predefined rules. If a packet is from a trusted source looking to use an open port on a device that's accepting traffic and is an approved data type, it will be allowed to enter the internal network. The same goes for traffic that's outbound. If the source device is allowed to send things outside the network, is sending these things to an approved destination, and the data itself is allowed to leave the network, the packet will then pass through the firewall. I think today's topic is very important to talk about because, as you'll learn later, not all firewalls are good at protecting your network. Let me give you an analogy, hopefully something that'll help illustrate how a firewall works. Let's say you live in a gated community where the only people allowed in are the residents themselves, and those with visitation permissions from a resident. You, a resident, are expecting a friend of yours, Wallace, to be visiting from Pennsylvania today. So you tell the person working security to be on the lookout for him. Later on, Wallace shows up at the front gate. Security asks for Wallace's ID and he provides it. It's a Pennsylvania license with the name Wallace on it, and the ID picture matches the face of the visitor. Security asks who he's visiting and he says your name. Wallace is then let through the gate and allowed to enter your front door. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, in this scenario, if your guest is allowed through the gate, your front door unlocks so that they could just walk through sitcom style. Like, Wallace will turn your doorknob, enter, and say, "You got some Wallace in your walls!" And the studio audience cheers, you get it. The firewall, or security guard, was given a new rule to allow traffic from Pennsylvania.com with a data type friend named Wallace into your network, as long as the destination device was your house using the open port, your door. This is how modern firewalls work, but they weren't always like this. Let's start with the very basic ones: the packet filtering firewall, the stateful inspection firewall, and the proxy firewall. A stateful firewall is one that stores information on current and past connections, asking whether or not the data passing through is a part of a current connection. If you were to Google something and Google sends back some results, the firewall would let that through because it knows you solicited that information. Stateless firewalls just filter packets based on the information attached to it, the IP addresses and the port numbers. So a stateful firewall is kind of like the earlier example, except you couldn't tell the security guard you're expecting Wallace. You could just say that you're expecting someone from Pennsylvania today. With a stateless one, you couldn't even tell the security guard when to expect your guest. Hey, there's a random guy in my house. How'd he get through? He's from Pennsylvania. I was expecting a different person entirely. And I was expecting him like 2 years ago. Look, the strange guy is leaving with my laptop. Oh, yeah. Anyway, are you still friends with Wallace? A proxy firewall is one that has two network interface cards, one that faces the outside network and one that faces the inside network. This provides extra security by masking your IP addresses. It's kind of like if Wallace went through the gate at the address that you had given him, but then a portal opened up that transported him to where you actually live. A remote community that's floating several hundred feet above the earth. The rest of the world only knows the address of your front gate, but they will never know where you actually live, because getting there involves using the portal. Firewalls could also be software like Windows Defender, or hardware. The hardware could be a standalone device, or something built into your router. Now let's talk about the types of firewalls that are noteworthy in the present day, because you live in the present day. Don't try to deny it. I know you are watching this today. Hey, how's that modern computer? Come with me to the next slide. We got 3 things to talk about: next generation firewalls, unified threat management systems, and web application firewalls. Let's start with next generation firewalls. If you recall the first example, you were allowed to specify that you wanted the data type of friend named Wallace to come through your network. Next generation firewalls are the ones that most closely resemble the earlier example. Not only do they look at IP addresses, port numbers, and monitor and record the current connection, but they're also more aware of what it is they're letting through. These firewalls can perform a deep packet inspection, and they do so very quickly, ensuring the impact they have on a network's performance is minimal. However, since they do offer more control over the traffic, setting them up takes more time than any of the previous firewalls. Next, we have Unified Threat Management Systems, or UTMs. UTMs are devices positioned in the network that handle all security functions you could possibly need. They include intrusion prevention systems, load balancers, and antivirus suites, as well as all the things that next-generation firewalls do. The idea of having all these things in one device is quite appealing. Using this device would make your setup time shorter, you'd have lower power consumption, and you might even free up some space for other devices. Investing in a UTM appliance would be a very smart move for a lot of companies. However, and I cannot stress this enough, do not make it the only security appliance on your network. If it goes down, your antivirus is down, your firewall is down, your intrusion prevention system is down, heck, even your VPN concentrator. The devices on the network are now unprotected. Don't make any function of your network have a single point of failure. It's kind of like the absurdly long corn dogs you get at a state fair. You can't have just one. And finally, we have web application firewalls. WAFs are used to monitor HTTP traffic for websites like your emails, your online shops, or your social medias. Web applications need their own type of firewalls because the types of attacks used against websites are different from the types of attacks used against personal networks. Cross-site scripting attacks, denial of service attacks, and database injection attacks. All of these are things a web application would want to look out for. Web application firewalls accomplish this by reading the contents of web requests, checking to see if they are potentially dangerous or asking for information that isn't theirs to have, and blocking malicious traffic before it gets to the web servers. There will be a part 2 to this video where I'll show you how to configure a firewall on your computer because it's kind of important. Thanks for watching.